and welcome back to another episode of the pod, Talking Real Estate. I'm your host, Dustin Anglum, and today we have Mike Epperson joining us. How are you today, Mike?
Good, Dustin. Thank you.
Good. So, Mike, how long have you been in the real estate industry?
Well, I was licensed in 2020, just as COVID started. Mm-hmm. Made it an unusual and interesting first year, but a great learning year. So,
I'm glad you mentioned that because we will talk about your COVID period and how now the real estate market is in just a few minutes. So look forward to that.
I guess. I'm looking forward to it.
So, from what I've realized, you are the agent that likes to build strong... we all like to build strong relationships with our clients, but you in particular, I will see you. You'll be going to lunch with a bunch of your clients and you will be going to dinners. So how are you at building those strong relationships with your clients?
I don't know that it's a particular thing I do. Say, okay, I'm going to build a relationship with you. One thing I've done this for a 30-year career in sales, is that I do try real hard to find something to like about them. Some people are not terribly completely likable, but if you just try long enough, you can usually spot something in them. Oh, that guy's a dog guy. I like that. Or this guy's shares some political background or something that we can talk about, or some shared hobby. And once you can do that, you can kind of get a connection, and then it's easier to build a relationship and sometimes to just put up with things that bother you.
So I'm going to keep that in my mind. Next time I'll just be like, I just need to find one thing that I like about you.
That's really all you got to do is you got to find one thing.
Okay. Well, I like your opinion and twist on that.
And I'm going to add something to it. Until you find it, just
bear with it.
Bear with it. Hold off. Don't make final judgments. Just keep going. And usually you'll find something, and then you'll find something else, and pretty soon you have a good time.
Well. So I was getting some papers off the printer, and I seen an offer on your vacation rental that you have listed up on Monkey Island. So can you tell us a little bit about that? About how?
Sure. This is a property. I actually sold this property to the current owner about 3-4 years ago, and they've decided that they own a business in Pryor, and they wanted to concentrate more on that business and not go up to Monkey Island and clean up on Monday mornings and all this after a bed and breakfast, Airbnb rental. So they contacted me a while back, probably been 6 weeks or longer, and we put the property on the market. And yesterday we received an offer. We made a counter, and this morning the counter was accepted. It's a neat area up there. Monkey Island is considered to be a desirable area. This particular home has a wonderful lake view. It's not on the lake, doesn't have lakefront access, but it's a nice place. Mm-hmm. And it's real well suited for Airbnb.
Yeah, we've been seeing Airbnbs in the past couple of years. They've really sprung up. You'll see it in a bunch of people's listing descriptions. They'll be like, perfect for Airbnb, or close to the lake, or all kinds of stuff. So what's your thoughts on that? Why do you think this area is suddenly becoming more popular with the Airbnb and the
There's
VRBO?
Probably lots of reasons, but it does kind of make me smile because I see properties that a few years ago would have been it's kind of out in nowhere, and the sales pitch at that time would have been, secluded, quiet, privacy, and now those same places, great for an Airbnb if somebody wants to get away from the rat race or something like this. So I do think that label is applied pretty broadly. Mm-hmm. So that's my initial reaction, but your question was why are we seeing it so much more?
Yeah, so, it's coming through everywhere. Do you think it's more because we have lakes there, lakes there, lakes there? I know it's not the weather is what's driving people here.
Well, it depends on where you're coming from. If you're from
that's
Minnesota, true. It might be the weather.
Yeah.
But, it's one of those things I always do feel like, whatever is happening tends to happen more just because people become aware of it and all of a sudden it's a thing. Mm-hmm. I don't know that the Airbnbs are going to be listed, I don't know that 25% of properties listed 5 years from now will mention Airbnb or Vrbo. But I do think the lakes are a huge attraction. Let's face it, Northeast Oklahoma is an attractive place.
It is.
It's green country and called that for a reason. You've got Uchi, you've got Hudson, you've got Fort Gibson, you've got Grand Lake, you've got the river. So it's nice in that regard. So we'll just have to wait and see. I don't have an answer for you. Not a good one anyway.
Gotcha. So like how we mentioned earlier, you are what some people would consider a COVID agent, right as COVID was starting.
Is that a label? Should I put that on my card?
I have, that might be good marketing. As we mentioned a little bit earlier, you are one of the agents that kind of joined right around the COVID time. So how has the market, back then it was a whole quite a bit different than what we're experiencing right now. So go through how it was COVID, how it was right after COVID, and how it is now. Can you do that for us?
I don't know. That's true.
For you personally,
yeah, I got
it's different for every agent for sure.
Is.
But for you personally, how has your real estate roller coaster been?
All right. So when I started out, and you know this yourself, of course, as you start out as an agent, you're not really sure what you're doing. You start to take a few tentative steps. The biggest challenge, of course, is trying to develop clientele and find listings, and there are multiple ways to do that. Of course, I was timid about that and not sure how to best approach it. Slowly, you have to throw yourself out and do what you can, and then after you've done one or two, you begin to think, "Oh, I know it all." And then, of course, you discover soon you don't. But I feel like it was maybe beneficial for me in that first year because everybody was a little bit on their heels, not knowing what's going to happen and how we're going to navigate these waters. So maybe I felt less out of place for that. So from that time to today, I've been fortunate to get to develop some clients and develop, this is a bit of an aside, but it's just delightful to get a referral from someone you've already worked with. And right now, 3 of the people I'm working with have come to me exactly that way. One is a daughter of a gentleman I sold a home to 3 years ago. Another was someone I worked with on a commercial vacation sort of project, and then they bought another property, and now they're looking at potentially others. So that's been delightful, and I would love to get my business to a point where that's what I depend on. That's where everything comes from. I don't think anybody gets there completely, but certainly agents, even in this office, that have been doing it for 10, 15, 20 years, you're beginning to see that for them.
Yeah. I mean, repeat clients, we have them.
Yep. And there, going back to what you were talking about earlier, you don't have to build a whole new relationship. You've already got something.
That is true. You already know one thing that you like about them.
Right.
And it's that they've done business with you before.
That's right. That may be the only thing.
Oh, my gosh. So, Mike, you kind of mentioned repeat clients. I know in your first couple years of real estate, most normally agents don't see that as much because they're building their clientele, and usually they're working with newer buyers most of the time, not all the time, and you don't really get that repeat client. You've been in the business for ish years. Are you starting to see the repeat clients? Is that starting to become more common for you?
Yeah, absolutely. And as I mentioned, that's a delight. That makes me very happy. Number one, it makes me feel good that they had a good enough relationship or a good enough transaction and enough trust to come back and do it again. And then, of course, a couple of people now have come to me. One client I've got right now is looking for a property. She's the granddaughter of somebody else that I had done with. One is a daughter. And those are the only ones I can think of right off the top of my head that I'm working with right now. But that's always great. In terms of referrals, I've been really pleased at referrals through some of the online services, Yelp and Zillow and these kinds of things. I've used Zillow a lot more for online referrals. I don't know that they're any better, but that has just been where I've done more. And I really think it interesting. About 2 years ago, I had a text message from somebody asking if I could help them with a particular property they had spotted. They'd had some conversations about it. They were considering using the seller's agent, but they felt like they needed somebody to represent their interests alone and not have that dual representation. And it made sense because it was $1 million plus property, and it was an investment property on Lake Hudson. So as I got to talking with them, the reason they had selected me was that based on the strength of some previous clients' referrals on Zillow.
So like some reviews that you got?
Exactly,
Okay.
Exactly. One of them, she specifically mentioned that it had been an out-of-state client, a young lady who bought a house near Uchi, near Lake Uchi, and had not seen the property until they were already under contract, which is kind of scary, But she was very pleased, liked the way it turned out, and she made a very nice comment. So that's when she said, when I saw that long-distance relationship, that you made that successful, that would help because, well, we're currently living in Iraq. So
not just out of state, out of country.
Way out of state.
Way out of state.
But, they had been in Iraq for over 20 years.
So what were some of the challenges that came with that? I know probably time zone differences, communication, all of that, maybe some paperwork.
You know what? The world we live in is such that, no, the communication wasn't that challenging, other than, as you mentioned, time zones, because I had like from 1 o'clock in the afternoon my time when they were available and awake, and then by the time I went to bed, their day was only half gone. So we the communication
it wasn't
window
too big
was
of a
smaller.
difference.
Yeah, but it wasn't that bad. In terms of sending documents back and forth via email, that was that doesn't take a genius.
No.
So that was fine. Communication was no problem. I mean, they were native. They were both from Texas.
Okay, so that they knew the area. Not necessarily this area.
They didn't know this area, but they were looking at properties, investment properties in Oklahoma and Missouri and in Arkansas. And of course, my license is good for Oklahoma only.
Yeah.
So fortunately, we found a place here that they liked, and we made it happen.
So the property that they ended up buying, the RV park kind of up here on the north side of the lake, didn't they?
Yes, sir.
So what stood out on that property? Why did they want that one?
They felt like there was a lot of room for growth. They felt like they saw opportunities to make some changes they felt would fit them better and could increase the business. They felt like there was a lot of room in that particular property and that particular business to build on a solid foundation, but they saw room to build on it.
Yeah, so that has an RV park, and then it also has a few Airbnb cabins on it, don't it, as well?
Yes, sir. Yep.
Gotcha. So that's several. Another Airbnb in the area.
Yeah, absolutely it is. Absolutely.
Gotcha.
It's interesting you say that. I've got a neighbor just down the street who has recently brought 5, I guess you'd call them tiny homes. They're not all that tiny, but he's put them up on a hill and is planning to verbo all of those on his property. And as you know, I live way off the beaten path a little bit.
Yeah.
So that's interesting. I'd forgotten.
Well, you'll have to, once he gets that up and running, you'll have to talk and see how business is doing. That might be something for you to look at.
I was hoping he was going to have them open by Thanksgiving, because I was going to put one of our kids and grandkids. I was going to put them in one of them. But
well, that would work.
Well, it would if they were open.
Yeah,
They're not quite there.
So, Mike, I have a question that I myself want to ask, just from personal experiences. So how do you...
Personal experiences.
Yeah,
okay.
Personal experiences. So I think every real estate agent goes through this this kind of complication. So I want to hear your take on how you deal with some clients that may have some unrealistic expectations versus what they want for their budget or anything to spiral off of that.
Okay. Well, yeah, of course, there's all kinds of unrealistic expectations. There's some people that feel like, well, it's listed for $250. You think they would accept $185? Probably not. But
So what do you say? And that what is your response for that
I
particular?
think the best way to do that is to say, well, that's quite a significant drop. Let me look and see what properties have sold for in that area versus what they were listed for, and I think maybe then we can get an understanding whether that's realistic or not. Because that just puts it back on the numbers and the data, and thankfully we've got some tools that will give us good data.
Yeah.
So that's I think the best way to deal with that. First thing I try to do is not. If I have to roll my eyes, I try to turn my head first. But anyway, yeah. How do you deal with it?
That was my question for you.
Well, yeah.
So that way I could
you've
have
had
some.
it too.
Well, I have actually, and I'm still trying to figure it out. Our job as real estate agents is to educate our clients. So if they're looking at $300,000 houses with a $225,000 budget, I mean, we're gonna have to. It is our job to educate them and be like, hey, you can't afford to. No, it's our job to get with our clients and figure out what their needs are, what area they want to be in, and try to work numbers and try to figure out if there's that middle ground on, hey, this house is in city limits. You can't quite afford it, but hey, look at this one that's 5 minutes from town. It's on an acre, but
Might be in the budget, huh?
Yeah.
Well, was there a question for me in that?
No.
Okay.
You,
that was
you
just a
asked me
comment.
the question.
Okay, well, I understood, but you sounded ended it, and I thought, well, I'm not sure I understand. Some clients come in, and they're pretty savvy. They're fairly sophisticated in terms of what they know, what they can afford. Best case scenario, they've already, talked with the lender and gotten some definite help in terms of what their boundaries are.
Yeah.
And that's always great.
Yeah, I've come to the realization that there's two type of clients that walk in that door. There's the ones that say, hey, I want to go look at this house right here. Mm-hmm. This is my budget. And then we have the ones that come in and say, hey, do you have a list of properties?
Yeah.
So, of course, we had a whole binder out there with every listing that stayed updated. But that's not the case anymore just because no one looks at our paper copies. We're like, oh, we'll email them to you. So it is a little bit different when we have a client walk through that door and be like, hey, do you have a list of properties that you have for sale? My answer is no, but what's your email? What's your budget? What area?
Yeah.
And then I'll just go through and I'll check mark. I'll go through on the MLS, put in their boundaries, and might have 20 pop up, might have 5 pop up. If 5 pops in,
Might have 1.
Yeah. So usually if 5 or less pop up, I'll be like, okay, I'll go ahead and just print these out. Which, of course, if we get to the upper, we're not going to want to print off all those because then it's just going to be like, what do I do with all these pieces of paper? So then I'll be like, hey, can I email these to you? You have a second, sit at the desk, go through them. Or I was like, or you can come over here, look at my computer. We can go through and you can just be like, nope, uncheck mark. And then we'll narrow it down just to kind of give them something because we don't want to overload them at any point at all.
Hey, just to throw this in, I have found if in that kind of a situation, and it takes a little bit of prep. If it's somebody who just walks in cold, it's not really. But if you know somebody's coming, I love using the conference room with the great big screen TV up there because, you can sit there and share a cup of coffee and go through those and they can see them. And that's really, I've enjoyed doing that in front of them. It makes you also enhances what little professionalism I sometimes have.
So, Mike, we've kind of hit what some agents would say a slow season. I know there's quite a few agents that come through. They're like, man, there's just no business.
Yeah.
It's a whole lot slower than normal. My
slower.
phone hasn't rang as much. And then there's a couple. We had our office meeting last week, and people was like, "Oh, my phone started ringing." Mm-hmm. So how do you see a lot of people have in their head election? Mm-hmm. It's caused, and statistically numbers. We went through it the other day. The past election years per the MLS. This time, right around an election, usually tends to be a lot slower if you look at closed sales. So what is in your opinion, where do you think the market's going to go in this upcoming months?
Let me get my dice out and roll them for you, buddy. Okay, with the caveat that I don't know what I'm talking about, I'll say this.
Or what do you hope happens? What?
Well, we all, I think, hope the same thing.
Yeah.
But in terms of what I think is going to happen, I do think that we should see a real strong start to 2025. I shouldn't say real strong. Much stronger start in 2025. And I do think that I think you, and as we had our meeting earlier in the week, several others had mentioned, I think we're beginning to see it already.
Mm-hmm.
So it doesn't take but a few phone calls to get a real estate agent going, hey.
Hey. So how have you handled personally the slow time that we've kind of experienced these past couple months? Or, yeah.
I don't know that my situation, I don't know how general you can make it, because every individual situation is different, in mine in particular. I'm kind of a lazy guy sometimes. I've actually enjoyed a little bit of a break when it was just constantly going.
Mm-hmm.
And, especially in the summertime, when it's light till 9 o'clock, there were nights when I wouldn't get home till 10. And I can only do that 5 days a week before I get a little picky.
5
peckish. So to some extent, I just tried to take advantage of the fact that it was a little slower and I had a little more time to do some hobby type things and catch up on chores around the place and things like that. Every agent's in a different financial place, and so that can present hardships, obviously, if you don't have any closings for 6 months. But you can't do anything to change it except maybe try to double down on your prospecting and your mail outs. Maybe that's the time to try. And I did that a couple of times, actually. Did mailings to select neighborhoods.
Mm-hmm.
So far, I haven't seen any success from that. The people who do it regularly say you won't see success until you do it 5, 6, 7 times. You got to do it on a schedule.
Yeah.
I haven't done that. So maybe I just need to be more disciplined in that regard.
That's certainly something that I've thought about. Just doing mail outs you can go onto the USPS website and go on and just go straight through USPS and choose mail routes.
I didn't know that.
And it has it priced out just like that. Whereas
really?
Mm-hmm.
Well, MLS has some pretty useful tools as well.
Yeah, for you to get all the billing addresses from all the...
Yep. And the mailings I've done, I've gone that route. I didn't know USPS offered something.
Yeah, but you don't get to... When you're doing it like that, you get to pick and choose who you're sending it to, and you can choose the area, which really when you're on the USPS website and you do the whole mail route.
You do the mail route.
Like Pryor has like 3 or 4 different routes that you can choose from. So, you just choose, and wherever that route goes, that's... So you can't choose...
At least look at that. That sounds interesting.
You can't choose to send to one specific part of Pryor and then another specific part, and then, you kind of have to just... you can do all 4... You can do a citywide mail out, but it gets kind of pricey when you do it like that.
Yeah.
So, Mike, what is one piece of advice that you wish you had known back in 2020 when you first got your license?
One piece of advice that I wish I had known. Temper your expectations, because it took a while. It took a while. I think of some of the new agents that we've got, and your heart kind of goes out to them as they're trying to get their feet underneath them, and everything they do, it's the first time they've done it, and oh my gosh. But that happens all the time. You heard me yesterday asking. Actually, I don't know if you did or not. You were at the other end of the table, weren't you? But when Stephanie arrived at that luncheon that we held yesterday, I said, Stephanie, I got to talk with you. I've got a situation I've never dealt with before. Here's what it is.
I don't think I was there yet.
No.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, and her response was, "It's no big deal. Here's what you do, and here's how it is." And I said, "Oh, okay." Well, I was needlessly worried, but yeah, when everything you do is new like that, it can be disconcerting. I got a question for you.
Lovely.
How do you try to build trust with somebody you don't know?
I think that's a little bit different for everyone. Me, myself, I want to be very welcoming. I don't want people to feel like, oh, this is just another real estate agent that's here for a check. I want to help people find their home, their land. I want to help them get into a property that they want.
Yeah.
And I think going in, being nice, letting them know that, hey, I'm working for you. I do what you want to do. If you want to go look at this house, let's go.
Yep. Yeah. It is interesting as you were saying that. I realized that I see the way people approach me has changed over the years when my hair started going gray. All of a sudden people make assumptions about you, and some of them are good.
And some of them's a grouchy old man.
Some of them's grouchy, and that's probably close to correct. But it's like the gray hair. Like saying, "Well, this guy probably knows something about this or that." May or may not be correct, but that's the assumption. And of course, you're working from the opposite end of the age spectrum. You probably.
I hope I don't have any gray hairs.
No. You have to overcome
he's young. He doesn't know what he's doing.
Exactly. Thanks for putting it that way. I couldn't come up with an.
And it's for everyone. I mean, it's a learning process. I don't want to ask how old was you when you started real estate, but how old were you when you started real estate?
32. It's been a hard 4 or 5 years.
All right. Well, thank y'all for tuning in to another episode of the pod here at Lakeland Real Estate. And thank you, Mike, for joining us.
It's always my pleasure, Dustin.
Yes. Well, if y'all have any questions or anything, don't hesitate to reach out. Just call the office or reach out to one of us personally. Have a great day.
Call me.